No, that's before.
You're gonna have to read this by yourself because this is too long.
So we're on 524 today. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So we'll do 4 and 5 because there's no purport. Satatad ashamo palanam ati raminiyam vivida nibbita vitapti vitapa nikara samshrita purata mata rudra stala yahagama maitunai pramochyamana shrutibir pratibodhyamana silila kukuta karandava Kala Hamsadibi Vichitram Upa Kujitamala Jalashaya Kamalakaram Upa Babrama. The Apsara sent by Lord Brahma began strolling in a beautiful park near the place where the king was meditating and worshipping. The park was beautiful because of its dense green foliage and golden creepers. There were pairs of various birds such as peacocks, and in a lake there were ducks and swans, all vibrating very sweet sounds. Thus the park was magnificently beautiful because of the foliage, the clear water, the lotus flowers, and the sweet singing of various kinds of birds. Text 5. As Purvachiti passed by on the road in a very beautiful style and mood of her own, the pleasing ornaments on her ankles tinkled with her every step. Although Prince Agnidra was controlling his senses, practicing yoga with half-open eyes, he could see her with his lotus-like eyes, and when he heard the sweet tinkling of her bangles, he opened his eyes slightly more and could see that she was just nearby. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is said that the yogis always think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within their hearts. Dhyanavashtita tad gatena manasa pashanti tam yogina. Srimad Bhagavatam 12:13:1. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is always observed by yogis who practice controlling venomous senses. It's recommended in Bhagavad Gita, yogis should practice sampreksha nasikagram, which is chapter 6, text number 13. Keeping your eyes half open. If the eyes are closed completely, there will be a tendency to sleep. Anybody notice that? So-called yogis sometimes practice a fashionable form of yoga by closing their eyes and meditating, but we've actually seen such so-called yogis sleeping and snoring while meditating. This is not the practice of yoga. To actually practice yoga, one should keep his eyes half open and gaze at the tip of his nose. Although Agnidra, the son of Priyavrata, was practicing mystic yoga and trying to control his senses, the tinkling sound of Purvachiti's ankle bells disturbed his practice. That's why we chant. So if we hear any tinkling ankle bells, we just chant louder. Although Agnidra, Yoga Indriya Samyamya. Actual yoga practice means controlling the senses. One must practice mystic yoga to control the senses. But the sense control of a devotee who fully engages in the service of the Lord with his purified senses, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam, can never be disturbed. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati therefore said, Durdan Tendriya Kala Sarva Patali Prokata Tang Strayate Chaitanya Chandramrita. Verse 5. The practice of yoga is undoubtedly good because it controls the senses, which are like venomous serpents. When one engages in devotional service, however, completely employing all the activities of the senses in the service of the Lord, the venomous quality of the senses is completely nullified. It is explained that a serpent is to be feared because of its poison fangs, but if those fangs are broken, the serpent, although it seems fearsome, is not at all dangerous. Devotees therefore may see hundreds and thousands of beautiful women with fascinating bodily movements and gestures, but not be allured, whereas such women would make ordinary yogis fall down. Even the advanced yogi Vishwamitra broke his mystic practice to unite with Menaka and beget a child known as Shakuntala. The practice of mystic yoga, therefore, is not sufficiently strong to control the senses. Another example is Prince Agnidra, whose attention was drawn to the movements of Purvachiti, the Apsara, because he heard the tinkling of her ankle bells. The same way that Vishwamitra Muni was attracted by the tinkling bangles of Menaka. Prince Agnidra, upon hearing the tinkling bangles of Purvachiti, immediately opened his eyes to see her beautiful movements as she walked. The prince was also very handsome, as described herein. His eyes were just like the buds of lotus flowers. As he opened his lotus-like eyes, you could immediately see that the Apsara was present by his side. Om Gyan Ramdasya Gyananjana Shlakaya Chakshun Ritamanyena Tasmai Shri Virve Namaha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhulale Shri Radha Swami Stay Saraswati Devi Gauravani Katoyani Mir Vasesh Nivari Pasyatya Adishta Jai Shri Krishna Titani Bhuvani Jnanam Shri Vedagadadhar Shri Vasani Gauravakti Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Kalpati Vishta Krpa Sindhu Parin Pavani Vaishnava. It reminds me of a great Bhagavad Gita verse. Dayata Vishyam Pumsam Sangas Teshu Pajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Krodo Pajayate. By contemplating the objects of the senses, one acquires attachment for them. From attachment, lust arises. From lust, anger develops. So he's just getting to the point of contemplating the features of the Apsara who Lord Brahma sent to him because he was a devotee of Brahma and he wanted to have a good son to perform sacrifices so he could make sure he got into heaven after he left his body. Therefore, he needed a wife in order to beget a son. So Brahma sent this Apsara, which are the society girls, the dancing girls in the heavenly planets. There's the Gandharvas, who are the singers, and the Apsaras, who are the dancers. So, Prabhupada talks about yoga and controlling the senses. So, actually the traditional yoga system is called Astanga Yoga. And there's controlling the senses throughout the whole practice of 8 different steps. Asta means 8 and Anga means limbs. So there's 8 limbs of this yoga practice. And the first 2 are Yama and Niyama, which mean regulating your life. The 2 of the most important are non-violence and cleanliness. And people are supposed to, which involve controlling the senses. You have to control your senses not to harm people, and you have to control your senses to be clean. And so you're supposed to actually do these before you do the sitting postures, although in many yoga places they don't mention that. There's actually 5 in each category. In one of them, another one that's the most important is Ishvara Pranadhana, which is basically surrender to the Supreme. That's actually part of the traditional yoga system. Ishvara means the Supreme Lord. Pranadhana means surrender. So you're supposed to be doing all these things before you're doing the sitting postures, and that also involves controlling the senses, because you're controlling the body to do all these postures, and that helps you to control the mind. And then the next thing is pranayama, which is the breathing exercises, and that also helps fix the mind on one point. And then the next one is pratyahara, which means withdrawing the senses from their objects. So ahara means literally to eat. So the five senses have different kinds of food. Basically, the eyes are thirsty after beautiful things to see, and the ears are enthusiastic for beautiful sounds like these tinkling ankle bells. The sense of tongue is always ready to taste something nice. We're always looking forward to some nice prasadam. Fortunately, Krishna's given a way we can control the tongue in devotional service. Otherwise, we'd be in great difficulty. And then we have this. We're interested in touching the very things that give us pleasurable sensations of touch, and we're interested in smelling fragrant things like incense or flowers. So we offer things to Krishna to smell, and then we smell the things that Krishna smelled, and our sense of smell becomes purified by smelling the prasadam incense and the prasadam flowers and the prasadam food. Actually, we become purified by smelling the prasadam food, even become enthusiastic to taste. So then after pratyahara are dharana, dhyana, and samadhi, which are like three different levels of meditation. I was in one class where the person who was giving the class was saying that, if you can meditate for so many seconds, it's dharana. If you can meditate for a longer period of time, it's dhyana. And if you can meditate for an even longer period of time, it's samadhi. So this is all controlling the mind, and samadhi is the goal of completely absorbing the mind in the Supreme, in Krishna. And so we accomplish this in our practice of bhakti yoga by hearing and chanting about Krishna. We fix our mind on Krishna by hearing the sound vibration of Krishna's name, the sound vibration of Krishna's instruction, the sound vibration of Krishna's pastimes, and by vibrating the sound vibration. By the hearing and chanting, our mind is absorbing Krishna. And so whereas the yogis, they quiet their mind and meditate on the form of the Lord in the heart, and meditate on the form of the altar, and the form of the holy name, and the form of the pastimes. Actually, for the I heard Kadamba Khan Swami recommend reading Krishna book for the Kartik as a vrata. So I decided to read the whole Krishna book, which is like 90 chapters.
Really?
So it's like 30 days in Kartik. So if you read 3 chapters a day, you can read the whole book. But it's just so wonderful to have all these pastimes of Krishna in your mind, because you just heard them within the last month. Oh, he's killing all these demons, he's protecting the devotees, he's engaging in relationships, all these leelas on your mind because you just read them for like a month. So the idea is that that by performing practical acts of devotional service, we completely absorb our mind and senses. So either we're doing our sadhana of hearing and chanting about Krishna, or we're doing some practical activity in devotional service, and we're meditating on how we're doing it for Krishna, and we're meditating on doing it nicely for Krishna. And by thinking of, like when they dress the deities, we think about how to dress them nicely so Krishna looks nicely. So we're looking at his form, and then we're thinking about how we're going to put this necklace here, or this bracelet here, or this jewel here. We're thinking about how we'll do it and how we'll do it nicely. Like when we cook, we think about using good ingredients and making sure we don't burn it. And so meditating on how doing our devotional service nicely, and by meditating on our sadhana, we completely absorb our mind on the spiritual platform. We don't have any time to do any non-devotional services, activities of sense gratification. There's a nice, I think it's in the summary of the end of the 5th chapter. This is sort of described by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. This fifth chapter is a practical explanation of Krishna consciousness, generally known as karma yoga. The question of mental speculation as to how karma yoga can give liberation is answered herewith. To work in Krishna consciousness is to work with complete knowledge of the Lord as the predominator. Such work is not different from transcendental knowledge. Direct Krishna consciousness is Bhakti Yoga, and Jnana Yoga is a path leading to Bhakti Yoga. Krishna consciousness means to work full knowledge of one's relationship with the Absolute Truth. And the perfection of this consciousness is full knowledge of Krishna, or the Supreme Personality of God. A pure soul is the eternal servant of God as his fragmental part and parcel. He comes into contact with Maya, illusion, due to his desire to lord it over Maya, and that is the cause of his many sufferings. As long as he is in contact with matter, he has to execute work in terms of material necessities. Krishna consciousness, however, brings one into spiritual life even while one is in the jurisdiction of matter, for it's arousing of spiritual existence by practice in the material world. The more one is advanced, the more he is free from the clutches of Maya. The Lord is not partial to anyone. Everything depends on one's practical performance of duties in an effort to control the senses and conquer the influence of desire and anger. And attaining Krishna consciousness by controlling the above-mentioned passions, one remains actually in the transcendental stage, or Brahma Nirvana. The Eightfold Yoga system is automatically practiced in Krishna consciousness because the ultimate purpose is served. There's a gradual process of elevation in the practice of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pratyahara, Dhyana, Dharana, Pranayama, and Samadhi, which I just sort of described. But these only preface perfection by devotional service, which alone can award peace to the living being, is the highest perfection of life. So the idea is we're doing our hearing and chanting sadhana, or we're performing practical activities and absorbing the mind in the activities that we're performing. In this way, we don't have time to meditate on the objects of the senses, like the tinkling bells of the Apsara, Purvachiti, and we're just thinking about how we're going to do what we're doing to please Krishna, or else we're chanting and hearing like that. So, that's sort of a summary of the ideas here. So, we can be completely absorbed in our devotional activities, then we can conquer our mind. The perfect example is Haridas Thakur, who was so absorbed in chanting his 300,000 names a day that when the prostitute proposed an intimate relationship with him, he said, I will certainly satisfy you, but after I finish my vow. So just sit down here and be patient. So in this way, she heard for 3 days the Thakur chanting the holy name, and she became so purified she gave up her program of trying to corrupt him and decided to become his disciple. He took up a vow of chanting 300,000 names. So he wasn't disturbed at all by the beauty of this prostitute, because he was absorbed. He was getting a higher taste from his chanting. So that was his secret. So we have to perform the practice very sincerely, so we get a higher taste from it, which involves avoiding the offenses. And apparently it says in the Harinam Chintamani, as I learned in one Bhagavatam class, that even if you commit the 10 kinds of offenses, if you can chant attentively, by that attentive chanting, you can give up performing the offenses, and you can attain Krishna prema. But even if you don't commit the other 10 offenses, if you're inattentive, you won't attain Krishna prema, because actually you're thinking about something else other than Krishna. And Krishna prema is loving Krishna, so Krishna is present in all his glory in his holy name. But if you're thinking about something else instead of Krishna, then how are you going to get purified? You're just meditating on the modes of material nature and how they're conditioning your mind, instead of meditating on the divine sound of the holy name. we also have to, in the practice of chanting japa, we also have to bring our mind back to the sound of the holy name, so it becomes purified. Because if we just listen to what's going in our mind, we'll stay in the same mental rut we've been for millions of births. So we have to deviate our mind that is absorbed in contemplating future sense gratification and engage it in hearing and vibrating the holy name. Then our mind will become purified and we'll be able to chant without any offenses. Then we'll get a higher taste from our pure chanting. So, does anyone have any questions or comments about the verse or prequel or class? Any realizations of transcending material sense gratification through absorption in devotional states?
It's a really good class.
Yeah, so the all seekers to be absorbed in some kind of devotional activity. So Prabhupada recommends both in the nectar of devotion and the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita that we become attached to one of the 9 items of devotional service. Because if we can completely absorb ourselves in any one of these, then we can be completely liberated from the material influence. Some people like to dress the deity, some people like to go into Harinam, some people like to distribute books. Some people like to read the Shastra, some people like to hear classes. Somehow or other we have to have some attachment to one of these things that's so deep that it can completely absorb our mind.
I heard just simply by doing deity worship that, well, Ayendra Prabhu talks about this, where it's like, without the performance of the Yuga Dharma, that simply by doing deity worship, that's like considered to be like idol worship, if you're not performing the Yuga Dharma. Like if the temple is only, they're not going out on Harinam and they're just worshipping the deity, then
it's not complete.
It's considered like idol worship.
We're supposed to perform in the Sankirtan, which is the Dharma of the age. We're actually supposed to sing before the deity. Prabhupada wanted us to sing before the deity. Although there's 6 artis, my favorite temple is Soho Street because there's always somebody singing for all 6 of the artis. And after the arati, they distribute the Mahaprasadam to everybody who took the trouble to come. So it's very inspiring. And because it's in central London and there's zillions of Indians who live in London, sometimes they come after work or during their lunch break and come to the temple and see the deity, hear the kirtan and take prasad and connect with Krishna. Yes.
Do you know Kavi Karnapurna?
I think
Brahmachari?
So. Yeah.
Goofy guy, artist. You know, he does like graphic design on his laptop.
I'm
Makes
not
videos
sure.
and stuff. Yeah. Well, he's a brahmachari there.
Oh,
I know him from Denver. Yeah.
Yeah, they do Harinam every day except Sunday in London.
How many hours?
They do 2 on Saturdays and they come for it.
How many hours do they do?
They do like from 1.5 to 2 usually. They do like from 3:30 to 5 or something.
Prabhupada says an hour.
They do from 7:30 to 9:30 on Saturday.
That's
And
good.
they also do the usual when Harinam Ananda was there on the 16th of August. We did Harinam for 3 hours because we both like to do Harinam
Is that
for
the
3 hours.
devotee in Ireland? That you were
Harinam
talking about?
Ananda he's from the Australia. He has a dark complexion because his ancestors, I think, from India. But he's enthusiastic dancer. He's a brahmachari dancer. He always engages people in dancing in Harinam. And he leads kirtan also. And I was so happy he was there because I knew I could count on a 3-hour Harinam.
Do you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Just laughed
Oh.
at the thought of 3-hour kirtans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have plans to go back to the UK?
April.
This April?
Yeah. April. Going to King's Day, the Harinam in Amsterdam with 200 devotees.
Really?
On the 27th of April. We usually fly into the UK because it's cheaper. Have some friends in the north. And I was staying in London for at least a day, coming and going.
sounds exciting.
Yeah, I was going to the north for many years, so at some point I'm going to go to the north.
Have you been to the farm in Scotland? It's called something
Yeah, yeah.
Bavan.
Karuna Bhavan.
Karuna. It's
Yeah.
looks very nice.
They have some of the woofers, the organic farm workers who go there. Some of them end up becoming devotees. You know,
Oh, yeah.
from working on the farm. They're also in New Mayapur in France. They have woofers come.
They do that at New Governor in Australia.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. You know, Tulsi's there right now.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, the secret is to try to completely absorb our minds. Prabhupada was saying when he was in New York in the early days, he was always reading or writing something reading or writing. He was always busy, working on his purport. So.
There's some Leela with Prabhupada in the Berkeley Temple in the early days.
Mm.
Like before they had the permits where the brahmacharis could live in the temple or whatnot.
Mm.
And the police came at 2, 3 in the morning or something, banging on the door to make sure they weren't sleeping in the temple.
Wow.
And Prabhupada was up translating his books.
So
I think they kind of got away with it. And they were it was kind of wild because all the hippies were destroying Berkeley, protesting the war.
Right.
And the cops were very appreciative of the devotees because they were actually bringing peace to Berkeley because they were doing so much Harinam and pacifying all these frustrated hippies from destroying everything,
Yeah, they're happy when we have our festival in New York too, because there's less chaos in Washington Park. All the troublemakers, they stay away, at least during our festival.
Yeah, that part keeps getting crazier and crazier too. It's as Kali Yuga progresses, it's just
Yes, well, I guess we can end here and wish everyone well in their complete absorption in their devotional practice, thus conquering over the material energy and attaining Krishna.